Hello, everyone. My name is Sherry Tolinar, and I am the owner of the ProsperUs Group. I'm here today, as I am every day, to help you navigate the admin world by answering your questions. If you want to submit a question, go to my Facebook page. I'll post the link below and send me a private message, and I will do my best to answer from this platform. So, this question comes from Wendy. She asks, now that I'm working from home since COVID has started, it has been a challenge moving my assisting out of the office. My boss says I send him too many emails and he has stopped opening them. Most of the emails I send are the ones he has to respond to himself. I send him daily recaps that he barely gets back to. He is not one to open an attachment and it's hard to get him to use task focused websites, but maybe I could convince him to. Any advice on an engaging way to keep your overloaded CEO focused on the daily to dos? So, Wendy, thank you for your question. There are two things that have to happen here. First, you need to get crystal clear on your process. Second, you've got to have a come to Jesus meeting with your boss. You can't use just any process here because the effectiveness of your process depends on your boss's own communication style. Now, I don't know him, granted, but it sounds to me like he's a fairly fast paced individual whose attention can't be diverted for long. He sounds like a very big picture thinker, which most executives are, but it also means that he's not naturally inclined to either dig into details, nor does he find it easy to discipline himself to step into the weeds and get the work done. Now, that's okay. In fact, it's awesome because it makes your role so much more valuable and indispensable if you can leverage this. So, your process has to reflect his style. It has to be concise, to the point, and very easy to follow. Now, first, create folders in his email, assuming, of course, that you have access. And if you don't, negotiate your way into getting it. And you're going to label them urgent emails and FYI emails. I like to put the numbers 01 in front of urgent emails and 02 in front of the FYI emails so that they appear at the top of his folders, which are typically sorted alphabetically. Now, as emails come in, drop them into the appropriate folder. Obviously, anything that needs to be personally addressed by him with an action goes into the urgent folder, and anything that he just needs to know about and then decide if he wants to get involved goes into the FYI folder. Now, you're going to want to tag the urgent ones with due dates so that when they become overdue, they appear as red. Also, mark them as unread so he visually sees how many are in there that needs his attention. Next, keep a running list of things you need to touch base on that you don't need an answer to in the next hour or two. Whatever you do, do not introduce a new task focused website. Introducing something that he needs to learn to use is not going to work in your favor while the current situation may be a source of irritation for him. You don't need to overthink the method of listing these things. I've generally just put them in bullet points in an email to send him, or I've utilized the task option in Outlook. Whatever you use, list them in bullet points concisely without any extraneous words or details. I'll give you an example. Instead of saying, the social committee met last week and we are asking for a budget of $10,000 for this year's Christmas party. Last year we rented out the zoo, but we've done that for the last 5 years and employees are asking for a new venue, blah, blah, blah. Remember, you're tailoring your communication style to your bosses. A more concise approach would be approval needed for $10,000 budget for this year's Christmas party. Now, finally, schedule time in his calendar for him to address all of these. Block it off, label it clearly, preferably at the beginning of the day when he's at his clearest. Whatever process you land on, Wendy, make it simple with as few touch points as possible. Now, second part of this, you need to have a meeting with your boss to get his buy-in. Don't be timid about asking for it and be assertive if you need to be. Begin the meeting always by stating your purpose. I would say something like, my number one job and priority is to support your success. To that end, I would like to outline an approach to working together that I think will work more efficiently than we have been. I heard you when you said you get too many emails, and I agree. So I've created 2 folders in your inbox where I would drop your mail according to urgency and show them what it is. Also, once a day, I will send you an itemized list of things that we need to touch base on. You can either provide answers by way of reply, or we can discuss them in our daily huddle. Now, if you don't have a daily huddle, Wendy, you need to negotiate that into your daily routine as well. Then ask your boss if he feels this approach will work best. And if not, ask him what he would do different and really listen to him. Tell him specifically that you need their buy in for the process. This now becomes a negotiation. It's so important that you leave that meeting with an agreement of how you're going to work together. Don't be discouraged if he turns down one or more aspects of your idea. Sometimes you need to remind them that the purpose of all of this is to support them effectively. Then it becomes less of a me versus you situation. This is now a collaboration. So, to recap, you first got clarity and you tightened up your processes for communicating with your boss. Then you had a meeting with him to get buy in on the new process moving forward. The key really is to listen to what they're saying. Sometimes we can fall into the trap of doing things a certain way without considering that it may not work for the personality and communication style of the person we support. So adjust, pivot, regroup. Now, I'm going to end this also by saying we need to look at opportunities that you may not be aware of that may be hidden in their feedback to you. Are there emails that you're sending him that maybe you really could have taken care of yourself? Maybe it's time to start flexing your own leadership muscle and take charge of it so that maybe 20% of the emails that you've sent don't actually need to be sent and placed in that urgent file folder because you took care of them. They're now in the FYI folder. Always be asking yourself, how can I step up my game even more? In fact, figure out the average number of emails that you've sent him per day in the last 2 or 4 weeks. Okay. Now, start keeping track of the average number of emails you send to him on a daily basis with the new process. Now you have a KPI that you can track. Now, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here. I realize that, but this is golden for everybody. Ask him to rate the effectiveness of your communication process as it currently stands on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very frustrating and 10 being like clockwork. Doesn't need to be more complicated from that. Just ask for a number. Then implement the new processes. And at the end of 2 weeks or even a month, ask him to re-score you. These are things you can measure, and it's a means of validating your value. So, Wendy, I hope this helps. I would love your feedback in the comments, everybody. If you're watching this over YouTube and you feel so inclined, I would really appreciate if you hit like and also hit subscribe. I'll talk to you tomorrow.